to do with Huntman DFS. Back to you, breaking down this PGA US Open breakdown, basically just breaking it down tier by tier like we normally do. Before we begin, hit the like button for me. Definitely subscribe. Definitely come hang out with us in the Discord where we're talking about all the plays basically in there. It's a good group of guys, and we're definitely down to have anybody and everybody in the chat. I'll put the link in the description below, along with Huntman's Twitter also, which y'all can go follow him. How's it going, my man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, man. I'm really pumped for this tournament. I think it's going to be a good test for all of these guys. I'm really excited to watch this weekend. That's the best part. So go ahead. Break it down for us.
So starting with 12,000 to 10,000 range, we're going to go tier by tier like normally. We're going to try to break down as many guys as we can that we like in our player pools into each tier. Then once we hit the lower tier, the 6,000 value range, we'll kind of go over a few guys down there. But starting at the top, 12,000 to 10,000, who's your favorite guy up here if you had to pick one in this huge entire group?
So we got Jon Rahm, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Bryson, and Brooks. We got a lot of heavy hitters here, obviously. There's no, one guy who's kind of been playing, crappy recently that we can easily fade. I think all five of those guys are, worthy of our consideration. Personally, I think I'm going to go with Brooks here if I had to pick one, just because of his, how he plays in majors, obviously in U.S. Opens as well. I think his recent form is fine. Like I said last video, I'm not worried about his miscut at the Palmetto. I think, honestly, it helps him because it gives him more time to get ready for this. I really just think he was kind of getting warmed up. So I think that's my favorite play, especially because it saves you, a whole $1,000 from going from Jon Rahm down to Brooks. But if I had to pick a close second, I think it'd be Jon Rahm, and I think he's kind of one of your favorites as well. Who do you like in this range?
I think the drama between Brooks and Bryson's really going to show now. I think we're going to step on that. This is going to be a tournament where they're going to go head-to-head and want to basically show each other up, which is why I'm liking Brooks a little bit more so than Bryson. I think Bryson does show up here, yes. I think it's the Bombers course, obviously, like we talked about last video, which y'all can definitely check out. This is a Bombers course where Bryson's literally going to try to drive the ball as best as he can, which we know he has a rocket of a driver. So, but then again, this is Brooks' course. I'm not really counting, like you said, Palmetto. I think that's better for him to be more prepared for this. And that's why I'm basically looking at Brooks more so than Bryson. But looking at Jon Rahm, which is one of my favorite guys up here. I think Jon Rahm's easy as consistent as can be. If you want to get to him, you can. But like I said, if I had a ranking, it would be Brooks, number one, Rahm, number two. And then I think the gamble is going to be on DJ and Spieth. I think those are the two risky guys if you want to take a gamble on. But basically, this is a whole group of guys that you can make a good case for all these guys up top. This is the 12K range, the 10K. These are the guys that are going to win you the championships. So, yeah, I don't have a bad reasoning for anybody up here, to be honest with you. But those are my two favorites. Do you like anybody else in this range before we move on?
No, I think you have a great point. You really just have to choose who you're going to fade. And when it comes to, that kind of stuff, I usually try to look at ownership, just because that gives you a small advantage when it's hard to really find the advantage between the five guys. I also obviously try to save a little bit of salary. I don't really like some of the guys in the low 6K range, so I'm not really trying to spend all my money, right away. So that's just a couple of small things that you can do to kind of nitpick between some of these guys. But I think Jon Rahm's great. I think I'm going to personally fade Dustin Johnson. I think Spieth is probably going to be the one who's the least owned or the most overlooked here. So if you're looking for an edge, probably go Jordan Spieth. But like I said, Brooks Koepka is probably my pick and probably my favorite play overall as well. Big Brooks guy.
Agreed. So then dropping down to the 9,900 to 9,000 range, we have some interesting guys in this range, like a JT, like basically Morikawa. Well, I mean, there's certainly guys in here in this range. Who are you liking in this range up top if you had to pick a few guys?
Yeah, I really like Justin Thomas this week. He's, in my opinion, going again under-owned or overlooked. I think he's coming in about 9% owned. I don't really understand why people are off him. I know his driver can kind of get him in trouble at times. That can definitely get you into trouble here at the U.S. Open with how long the rough is going to be. But, I really think his game just fits anywhere that he plays. And are we really going to let, a guy like Justin Thomas, fall between the cracks here and go under 10% owned? He's definitely going to be in quite a bit of my lineups. He's one of my favorite plays. I definitely like Colin Morikawa as well. He's one of the best approach, hitters in the game, if not the best. I would not be surprised to see him raising the trophy at the end of the weekend. Xander Schauffele, obviously, we have to say his name. He's going to be probably one of the chalkiest plays. If you just pull up his U.S. Open, history, it's honestly insane. There's so many top 5s, top 10s in there. It's really hard to not play him, especially when looking at that. He just hasn't really been him, the Xander that we have all known for the last year, I guess, as of recently. So I think he's going to be a solid play, and Patrick Reed as well. He's going to be a great. It's definitely going to be there over the weekend, in my opinion. So who are your favorite plays in the 9K range as we look over it?
Yeah, again, this is range that is really juicy, in my opinion. You can go to a lot of guys in this range. I mean, looking at the salaries, Justin Thomas at 9,700. How do you count him out in this bracket of players? I mean, and not in the 10K range for him. The salary savings is there for him. I mean, Rory with the irons, is he back officially? That's the biggest question mark. I think he possibly can be back. Can he do it here at this price tag alone? I think so also at 9,900. I don't see a bad case for him at Xander. History speaks for itself here. That's all you need to say. I mean, the U.S. Open is Xander's course, plain and simple. But you also have Patrick Reed, who won here already recently at the Farmers, and we can go certainly to him at 9,000. That's an easy price point. If you want to look at Patrick Cantlay, if you trust him now, 9,100. I don't mind him either. But how do you even count out a guy like Hovland 9,200? I know this is bad for us to say that we like a lot of guys in this range.
Yeah.
But you can make a case for a ton of these guys in these places. It's all about who you pick and fade, plain and simple. So you can even go to Morikawa. I don't mind him at 9,500. But my lowest owned guy is definitely probably going to be, though, is Patrick Cantlay and Hovland. If I had to pick, I do like Justin Thomas at 9,700 a lot. I do like Xander just based on history alone. If I had to rank them, I do like Patrick Reed. But there's a few pivots down here in the 8,000 range that we can certainly go over. But do you like anybody else in this 9K range before we move on to that range?
Yeah, it's really tough for me to get away from Hovland. He's been, definitely in my player pool for so often in the last couple of weeks. But it's really rare seeing guys like Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele that low. Normally they're at least $10,000 guys, if not even in the 11K range, depending on the tournament. So that's kind of why, I'm kind of going to those guys more than anything. I think, again, their game just fits really well here. Hovland, I think, will be a solid play. Cantlay, again, like you said, it's really hard to not say all these names because all mix recently. There's not really, one of them that's just, has 3 missed cuts going into the weekend or anything like that, and they're just priced that way because they're not playing well recently. Like you said, it's really tough to to make a case to fade all of these guys. That's really one of the hardest things this weekend, as I'm sure, everyone watching this will agree.
Agreed. Then dropping down to the 8,900 to 8,000 range. This is where you're going to need to make some choices now. This is where it gets interesting, in my opinion, and where you're really going to have to make your choices now. So dropping down to Tony Finau, obviously you can play him. I love him here. This is his course also. You can make a name for him. If you're looking at Will Zalatoris, the stroke gains approach, that's the long game for him. I love it here. I think he can make a great case here. If you want to look at a guy like Corey Connors, which the sticker shock is there at 8,200, that's definitely a risky price, but I think the ownership will play well with him where he can set up all here. Tyrrell Hatton, it just depends on the anger issues, if you're going to play him mentally or not. He sets up well here also, but again, it's all about the mentality. The guys that I'm kind of Xing off my board, though, is probably Kean Smith. I don't like the price tag for him. Justin Rose has never been a guy I can get to. Daniel Berger is a little bit iffy for me at 8,400, and then Scheffler is a guy I'm not really looking at either. I can never play him. But if I'm looking at the guys, like I said, Tony Finau is a guy I want. Will Zalatoris is a guy I want. And last but not least, maybe it's Corey Connors, but I'm going to say Louis for last, depending on how you view him. Talk to me about this range, my man.
Yeah, I agree with you. The 2 top guys there, I like Finau. He always plays well in majors. He has some good history at Torrey Pines as well. I think he's going to be a solid play, and he's pretty cheap too. You really start your lineups with Patrick Reed, Schauffele, and Finau, and have quite a bit of money left over. So I do think quite a few people will start there this weekend. So probably going to try and avoid that a little bit, even though it's kind of enticing. But I do like Will Zalatoris a lot this weekend. I was just pulling up. He's been in 3 majors in the last 6 months since he kind of showed up on tour, and he has 3 top 10 finishes. So it's really hard to disagree with that. I tweeted out during the majors, I don't think he's ever going to be in the 7K range again. He's in the 8K range. It's really, I don't know if we're ever going to see him in the 8K range very often again as well. I think, if you're ever going to buy stock in Zalatoris, it's definitely got to be now before he gets his first tour win. Otherwise, for the most part, I didn't really see too many names that jumped out to me in this range. Matsuyama, I just think plays well when the courses are tough. Obviously, you guys saw that with the Masters this year. I just think, when there are tough courses, like we'll see this weekend, Matsuyama can just, save par, or he can at least, get there to save his salary at least. Scotty Scheffler is another guy very similar to Will Zalatoris. He has 4 major starts, and he has 4 top 20s, so a little bit different, but it's a pretty safe bet again for a guy in the it really just depends on what you're looking at this week. Are you weighing stats such as driving distance and driving accuracy? Or are you looking more at U.S. Open history or the Farmers Insurance, that tournament history? It's really going to be interesting to see how guys just kind of build their lineups. Anyone else in this 8K range? You kind of mentioned Louis. Are you going to be going to Louis this weekend?
Tell me why I should not play him. Give a reason why.
I think Louis has peaked, in my opinion. I think we have seen peak Louis. He's played well. He goes through his ups and downs. When it's chalk Louis, you got to get off chalk Louis. He just comes out of nowhere. You're not going to get Louis on, when you want him.
This is going to be the tournament that he's going to pull out probably if I play him in the lineup. I hate to say it, but this is going to be the pull-out tournament for him.
How it goes with guys, man.
Who knows? Who knows? Dropping down to the 7K range, there's a lot of guys in this range that I do like that I cannot wait to talk about with you, my man. Starting with Paul Casey, the man himself. I love Paul Casey here. 7,900 is a great price tag for him. Answer, I think this is his course. I mean, tell me why. There's not a reason why not to play Answer at 7,900. That's a way too cheap of a price tag for him, for what he can do. As people call him, the Mexican Alvin Iverson, apparently. So I think he can set up well here. I mean, this is his course. Tell me why I shouldn't play Answer.
Yeah, I don't really have a good reason why you shouldn't play Answer. He has some good history as well in the majors. Yeah, I really don't have a strong take on why you can't play Answer. I think a lot of this ownership is going to be spread out in the 7K range. I guess the one thing I'd say is just to pivot to Paul Casey. I probably am going to have a little bit more Paul Casey just in my lines in general. I think he's got a little bit more fortitude for this, and just been playing well. I like I said, I like both those guys. It's really hard to get away from both of them. This 7K range is so loaded, we could almost split it up into upper 7K, 7K. How about the rest of the upper 7? Anyone kind of stand out to you?
Give me Sam Burns here. I think Sam Burns is amazing to me here in this range. I mean, if he can get out there and just play without hurting his back, I think his game sets up well here with the Bombers course and the strokes getting approach. I love him. If we're looking at Shane Lowry, the cover boy, I mean, the way that he's been playing has been out of his mind recently. I think it's going way underrated and overlooked for a lot of guys. So I love Shane Lowry here. Kokrak, 7,600 is not a bad price tag. Gary Woodland, I know we talked about. Great price tag for him, and this course is all his also. Bombers course, the way he plays, I can't repeat that enough. Is some of these guys, just the way they set up well here is unspeakable at their price tag. I think price tags here are soft, in my opinion. Some of these are really soft. So those are the kind of the guys I'm looking at. I'm not really getting to Phil. I mean, if he makes a run, good for him. I'm not really falling in for it.
Yeah.
I have mixed emotions with 2 guys up here, though, with Fleetwood and Fitzpatrick. Part of me wants to play Fleetwood, but again, the other part of me is I don't know if I trust it. Similar to Fitzpatrick, I know the iron play is there, but I don't know if I trust it also. Do you like anybody else in the 7K range up top before we head down to lower 7,500 range?
Yeah, now that you said Fleetwood, I wanted to play him after round 1 at the Palmetto, and then after round 2 Palmetto, I completely got off him. So it just shows
exactly.
Of Tommy Fleetwood. So it's tough. I do like Jason Kokrak a little bit. I think he's starting to kind of gain a lot of ownership. A lot of people are talking about him, in my opinion. Probably more of a cash game play for my my liking, I guess. But yeah, there's some good plays here. Gary Woodland, like you said, definitely a bomber. I think he'll definitely set up well here, and he has been playing well. We've talked about waiting a little bit on guys like that to make sure that they're gonna at least get through the week, even if they make it, of course. So Sam Burns is really one that I'm having a tough time with. He was actually in the final grouping at the Farmers Insurance this year with Patrick Reed, except he just kind of had a really bad Sunday and fell down the list. So I don't, unless he's really injured, kind of like, a couple weeks ago when he burned everybody, at the last major, we'll kind of see. That's really going to be one that's tough for me. I'm probably going to fade because I'm going to try to keep this 7K range really tight so then I can just filter in some of the top guys that I really like. So for me, it's going to be Paul Casey, probably some Jason Kokrak. I just think he's going to be a good play. And then I'm definitely looking at some of the lower 7K range guys. Anyone that stand out to you in that, again, the lower 7K range?
So the lower 7K range is where I'm going to go to find my ultimate value, I think.
Yep.
And looking at this range, to start off the very top, Adam Scott is a guy I love. I mean, everything about him you can compare to this course. This is his course. I love him at 7,400. You can't go wrong with him, in my opinion. If we're looking at a guy like Max Homa at 7,300, the way he's been playing has been out of his mind also. Ever since his game has turned around, I've been on the train with him, and I'm not jumping off just yet. So, I mean, looking at possibly, are we talking about Higo? We can go right back to the well with him, going on a winning course. I mean, and then the mystery guy that I want to take a minute to talk about is Matthew Wolff. He's back finally, and he's back from injury, back from the mentality game. I'm taking a risk in GPPs with him. I want to take a risk because I think ownership will be so low on him that people are going to not want to play him. And I think I want to turn this around and jump on the train before it gets hot, which we know it can with Matthew Wolff. 7,200 is not a bad price tag. He's the miniature Bryson, in my opinion. I like him here at this price tag. I can't say it enough. I want to get to him, honestly. What do you think of the lower 7K range?
Yeah, like I said, definitely a lot of guys here that I like. I'm probably going to have a few of them in a majority of my lineups. Adam Scott's going to be a big one. You pull up his game log. He doesn't have like really flashy finishes in the last year since he's kind of came back on tour, but he did finish pretty well again at the Farmers, and he just has great major pedigree, and he just performs well at this course. So I think he's a pretty safe bet to make the weekend and finish maybe top 25 in my opinion. Brian Harmon, he's actually been chalk over the last few weekends a couple times, and he's not really getting talked about too much this week. I know he's not really a bomber, but I think he's just has the game, especially the short game, to compete this weekend. Again, going kind of overlooked with how many guys are in this range. You say Matthew Wolff, like you said, you have to take some shots this weekend. So I really can't hate on that at all. A guy that I'm going to take a shot on this weekend is Ryan Palmer. He's probably going to be a little bit over-owned in my player pool. When I was I was just thinking about courses or tournaments that kind of relate to this, one that I really think about is the 2020 Memorial and the rough that, guys were hitting in the entire time. John Rahm did win that tournament, so, take that for what it is. But a couple other guys that were really towards the top of the leaderboard were Ryan Palmer, Matthew Fitzpatrick. We just kind of talked about him. But again, Ryan Palmer was one, and he also finished pretty well at the Farmers back in January as well. So Ryan Palmer is going to be pretty heavy in my player pool. I think he's going to be a solid play this weekend. And I tweeted out, earlier this week, one of the hottest players on tour this year is only 7,200. And there's actually a couple players that you could look at and consider one of the hottest guys. In my opinion, it's Charlie Hoffman. I think, his approach game is so on fire right now. I mean, at 7,200, I think he's just a really safe bet as well. So Charlie Hoffman and Ryan Palmer are going to be two of my favorite value plays this weekend.
What do you think of the iron play for Carlos Ortiz at 7,100?
Yeah, he's kind of picking up some steam as well this week. I think he's going to be a solid play. Another GPP dart that could win you a tournament. There's going to be a lot of casuals this weekend playing because it's a major, because they want to, be betting when they're watching it this weekend. I guarantee these people weren't playing the Palmetto last weekend. So, there will be some casuals that won't know who the heck Carlos Ortiz is and,
exactly.
his ability to win you a GPP if he finishes, top 5, top 10. So I like him. Like I said, I like Ryan Palmer, so I don't want to, add too many people in this range, but I do like him a lot. Streelman's another one. Matt Wallace has been playing really well. Bez is in here. I can't remember. I think he's 7,200. Max Homa. So, I mean, there's so many good plays here. Again, I'm sure as everyone watching this can agree, it's going to be tough to kind of choose your fades here. But again, in my opinion, my favorites are Hoffman and Ryan Palmer.
But the reason why we're going over a lot of these plays, everybody, is because this is the U.S. Open. Like you said, the casuals are going to be playing. There's $1 million tournament. Of course, everybody's going to be trying to be playing this. So you're really going to have to dig deep and be different with your ownership plays, because a lot of people don't have ownership tools that some of these pros have that we see. We're obviously not pros, but you can look at ownership, and the ownership's going to be buried between these 7K range guys that people are going to play the chalk down here. But we got to find a GPP pivot to be different in order to bank that $1 million tournament, to bank those GPP tourneys. So that's the reason why we're trying to go over a lot of these guys down here, more so than the guys up top, because this is where the whole entire game will change down here, is this lower 7K, 6K range, because people are going to be playing these guys. But the least salary on the table this week would be definitely a way to be different also. Yeah. But dropping down to the lower 6K range or the lower 7K range, Himley, another guy, 7,000. Iron play. I keep hitting on it again. I love the iron play coming out of him. Looking at possibly Johnny Vegas at 6,800. Not a popular guy, but cheap. What do you think of anybody down here?
Yeah, I actually only have 2 guys in my player pool right now in the 6K range, just because I don't really want to have one of these guys screw up a really good lineup. So I'm sticking to mostly the 7K range, again, because we have a lot of good, quality players in that spot. So Johnny Vegas is one, just because he bombs the ball off the tee. He actually ranks really well there. You wouldn't expect it, but
exactly,
he is a bomber. And then Brendan Steele is the other guy in my player pool that I really like this week. He has a lot of made cuts in a row, and when you're digging in the 6K range, that's kind of what I look for. So he's definitely going to be in my player pool. Anyone else that you're looking at, especially in the cheap range here?
Yeah, last guy I want to hit on is Cameron Young. I think people don't know him unless you've seen the Korn Ferry Tour, which he's won back-to-back courses on the Korn Ferry Tour, now coming up to this U.S. Open course that he qualified in, and this is the one course that he has history on, believe it or not. So I don't mind taking a shot at him at that 6,800 price tag for a guy who has, if you don't know what the Korn Ferry Tour is, for basically that's the AAA of what baseball is. The Korn Ferry Tour is the AAA of PGA. So this is basically, he's getting his step up here, and I think he can do it well at 6,800. I don't mind him at all. But like you said, Johnny Vegas sets up well here. Cameron Young, I do like Brendan Steele. So there's guys down here that will get you this tournament winning equity that you can definitely look at. But if we're building a lineup, if you do want to try to figure out if you want to put John Rahm, then you already have to go somewhere in the 7,700 range. If you click up John Rahm, you're already going to have to find somebody down there. So if you're trying to build a lineup, I think you want to start with those 8K range guys and then kind of fill up your way up. What is your strategy for this week, my man? Talk about it.
I was just going to ask you kind of roster construction, that kind of stuff. So I think, in my opinion, I'm going to do it 2 different ways. I'm going to probably split up my lineups 2 different ways. I'm going to kind of lock in a few guys in the 7K range. It's going to be tough to choose. I haven't really made those final decisions yet, but really hone in on, 3, 4, 5 guys that kind of mix around in that range, and then filter in the guys up top, because like we said, there's so many, really good plays up there. I really want to make sure I have some ownership to those guys, because I really do think a winner is going to come in the 9 or 10K range. It's really rare in a major to see someone, lower than, even 8K win. Probably going to try and find some guys. There's some really good golfers in the 7K range, guys that are top 20, top 30 in the world golf rankings. So probably going to really try to hone in on those guys. Like I said, filter in up top. Or I think I might just, choose some of the chalk up top. Start with Brooks, Xander, and Tony Finau. 3 guys that I think are really safe bets that, just play well in majors. And then kind of figure it out, filter in a bunch of guys that I like in the 7K range, and then maybe I, hope I get a little bit lucky with some lineup construction there. So that's 2 things that I'm kind of thinking about doing. Haven't really made up my mind yet. How about you?
So if you do lock in 3 guys in the 7K range, like I was trying to do while you were talking about it, say you lock in Paul Casey at 7,900, lock in Shane Lowry at 76, and then Carlos Ortiz for a flyer at 7,100. That leaves you 9,133 left to go. That leaves you enough room to get one of those AK guys in, possibly like say Corey Connors, 8,200. It gives you now 9,600 left to play with. So the difference is going to be the GPP and cash builds. Basically, in GPPs, you're really going to have to dig deep to find out that diamond in the rough for the value play. But in cash, I think that's where the ownership is going to be at, is these guys in the 9K range, chalky guys in the 10K range. Those are going to be your cash plays, in my opinion. So the difference, like I said, is going to be who do you find in that lower 7K range. So make yourself be different in order to fit into your lineup. Do you have any last closing thoughts, man, before we head out of here?
No, I think you hit it all really well. Like I said, there's so many quality plays at the top there. It's really hard to kind of choose. I know we kind of said a lot of names here, but you really got to kind of your fades here. If we knew exactly who was going to win, we would obviously
be millionaires.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I'm pumped to watch, and it's been fun chatting with you about it.
Always, man. So you can come find us, like I said, in the Discord or DM, basically, Hunter, Huntman DFS. If you want to talk to him about your plays, he's always feel free to talk to him. Feel free to talk to me about your plays. So that pretty much wraps this video for us guys for the U.S. Open. Again, this week is going to be different, and try to go catch that million. If you do, be sure to split it with us, obviously, because we need that money. So that wraps up this video for us guys. Again, thank you all for tuning in. And have a great and safe rest of your night, everybody.